What if I told you nothing is actually pulling you down right now? No invisible force, no cosmic rope dragging you toward Earth. So why are you not floating into space? Why does mass create gravity? Let's rewind for a second. For most of human history, gravity felt obvious. You drop something, it falls. You jump, you come back down. Simple. So when Isaac Newton saw an apple fall, he didn't just see a fruit hitting the ground. He saw a pattern. He realized the same force pulling that apple down was also holding the moon in orbit around the Earth. That idea was revolutionary. For the first time, the universe followed rules, clean, predictable rules. Gravity, Newton said, is a force. Every object with mass pulls on every other object with mass. And honestly, it worked beautifully. It explained planets, tides, falling objects, almost everything we could observe. But there was a crack in the story, a very strange one. Newton's equations could tell you how strong gravity is, but not how it actually works. Think about it. If the sun suddenly disappeared, would Earth instantly fly off into space? According to Newton's theory, yes. Gravity acted instantly across any distance, but that didn't sit right. How can something travel infinitely fast? How can the sun affect Earth without anything connecting them? It was like saying two objects can communicate without sending a message. Even Newton himself was uncomfortable with this. He admitted it openly. This idea of action at a distance felt incomplete, and for over 200 years. No one could fix it. Until a quiet, curious thinker came along, Albert Einstein. Now, Einstein didn't start by trying to fix gravity. He started with something else entirely, light. He discovered that nothing in the universe can travel faster than light. That speed is the ultimate limit, and suddenly Newton's idea of instant gravity became impossible. So Einstein asked a different question, not what is the force of gravity, but what if gravity isn't a force at all? Imagine this, you're inside an elevator floating in deep space, no gravity, no up, no down. Suddenly the elevator starts accelerating upward, you feel yourself pushed to the floor. Now ask yourself, is that gravity or just acceleration? Here's the twist, you can't tell the difference. That insight changed everything. Einstein realized that gravity and acceleration are fundamentally the same thing, and that led him to a shocking conclusion. Mass doesn't pull on things. Instead, it changes the very structure of reality. Space is not empty. Time is not separate. They are woven together into something deeper, a fabric called space-time. And when mass enters that fabric, it doesn't just sit there. It bends it, warps it, distorts it. The more mass, the deeper the distortion. So when you see the Earth holding you down, what's really happening is far stranger. Earth is curving space-time around it, and you're simply following that curve. You're not being pulled. You're moving along the straightest possible path in a universe that is no longer straight. Think about that. Planets orbit stars not because they're being yanked around, but because they're moving through curved space-time. Light bends near massive objects. Not because it has weight, but because the path itself is bent. Even time changes. Near massive objects, time actually slows down. Right now, at your feet, time is moving slightly slower than at your head. You don't feel it, you don't notice it, but it's happening. That's how deep this idea goes. Gravity isn't just about falling objects, it's about the shape of space and the flow of time itself. And suddenly, that simple question, why does mass create gravity, becomes something much bigger. Mass doesn't create a force. Mass tells the universe how to curve, and the universe tells everything else how to move. Now, here's where everything you think you know starts to break. We've been told gravity is a force, something pulling you down, holding planets in orbit, keeping the universe together. But what if that's just a convenient illusion? Because according to Albert Einstein, gravity isn't a force at all. It's something far stranger, something you can't see, can't touch, but are inside of right now. Let's rebuild your intuition from scratch. Forget empty space. Forget the idea that the universe is just objects floating in nothing. Instead, imagine that everything, space and time, are fused together into a single fabric. Not metaphorically, literally a four-dimensional structure called space-time. Every event that has ever happened, every step you take, every second that passes exists within this fabric. Now here's the key. This fabric is not rigid. It bends, it stretches, it curves, and mass is what causes that curvature place something small into space-time like a human body. And the effect is tiny, almost unnoticeable. But place something massive like Earth, and space-time itself begins to warp. Not just space-time, too. The presence of mass tells space-time how to curve. Now here's the part that flips everything. Objects don't move because they are being pulled. They move because they are following the shape of space-time. The straightest possible path in a curved universe looks like a curve to us. Physicists call this a geodesic. The natural path something follows when nothing is pushing or pulling it. So when you drop a cup, it's not being dragged downward by an invisible force. It's simply following the straightest path available through a region of space-time that has been bent by the Earth. Think about that for a second. You are not standing still right now. You are in motion moving through curved space-time. And the ground beneath your feet. It's what's stopping you from continuing that natural path in a strange way. The floor is pushing you up. Let's take it further. Imagine turning off all other forces. No air resistance, no friction. You jump at the highest point, you feel weightless for a split second. Why? Because in that moment you are finally free. Free from resistance, free from interference. You are following your natural path through space-time. That feeling of weightlessness, that's what no gravity actually feels like. Even light, something with no mass, follows this rule. When light passes near something incredibly massive, its path bends. Not because it's being pulled, but because space-time itself is curved. This is not theory. We've observed it. Stars appearing shifted in the sky, light bending around galaxies, even entire galaxies acting like lenses. This idea is called General Relativity, and it completely redefines reality. Gravity is not a force acting within space-time. It is the shape of space-time itself. So the next time you think about gravity, don't imagine invisible strings pulling everything together. Imagine this instead, a universe where space can bend, where time can stretch, where mass reshapes reality itself. And everything from falling apples to orbiting planets to beams of light are simply following the curves of a universe that is no longer flat. Close your eyes for a second and picture this. Not space filled with stars, but something far stranger. A vast invisible surface stretching in every direction. Endless, smooth, silent. This is space-time. Now imagine placing a single object onto that surface, a massive one like Earth. The moment it appears, something changes. The surface doesn't stay flat. It dips, it curves inward, like a heavy weight pressing into soft fabric, not because something is pulling it down, but because its very existence reshapes the surface itself. Now imagine something smaller, a marble. You place it near the curve. At first, it moves straight, but as it gets closer, its path begins to bend. It spirals inward. Faster, closer, until it circles the dip or falls in. Here's the key. The marble is not being pulled by the large object. There are no invisible strings, no hidden force reaching out. It's simply following the shape of the surface beneath it. This is the universe you live in. According to Albert Einstein and his theory of general relativity, this surface is real. Not something you can touch, but something everything obeys. Now let's make it even more real. Replace that marble with the moon. Replace the surface with space-time. And suddenly, the orbit of the moon around the Earth is no longer a mystery. The moon isn't being yanked around by gravity. It's moving forward, but the path ahead of it is curved. So it keeps falling, but never hits the ground, an endless fall around a bent universe. Now zoom out further. Picture light itself, a beam racing across space at the fastest speed possible. Untouchable, massless, you'd expect it to move in a perfectly straight line, right? But when that light passes near something incredibly massive, a star or even a galaxy, it bends, its path curves. Not because light is being pulled, but because the space it's traveling through is no longer straight. Astronomers have seen this happen. Light from distant galaxies bending around closer ones, creating warped images, rings and arcs in the sky. The universe itself acting like a lens. And here's where it gets even more unsettling. This curvature doesn't just affect space. It affects time near massive objects. Time slows down. Not metaphorically, literally. A clock closer to Earth ticks just a tiny bit slower than a clock farther away right now. At your feet, time is moving slower than at your head. You don't feel it. You don't notice it, but it's happening. So when you stand on the ground, what's really going on? You're trying to move along your natural path through space-time, a path that curves inward toward the center of the Earth, but the ground stops you. It pushes back. And that resistance, that pressure you feel is what you call weight. Let that sink in. You're not being pulled down. You're being prevented from falling through a curved universe. And suddenly, gravity looks completely different. Not a force, not a pull, but a shape. A distortion in the fabric of reality itself, guiding everything silently, inevitably, along paths that only look like attraction because we can't see the curve beneath our feet. Now here's the part that completely flips reality upside down. Everything you've been told about gravity, the pulling, the force, the invisible attraction might not just be incomplete, it might be wrong right now. You feel like you're standing still, feet on the ground, body at rest, not moving. But according to Albert Einstein, that feeling is an illusion because in truth you are falling. Let that sink in. At this exact moment you are moving, not through space the way you imagine, but through something deeper, space-time. And the path you're taking, it's the straightest possible path that exists. But here's the catch. Space-time itself is curved. So what does straight even mean in a universe that isn't flat? Imagine walking on the surface of the Earth. You feel like you're walking in a straight line. But from above, your path curves around the planet. Now take that idea and apply it to reality itself. The straight line you are following through space-time leads directly toward the center of Earth. So why aren't you crashing into it right now? Why aren't you accelerating downward endlessly? Because something is stopping you. The ground, here's the twist. The ground isn't passive. It's not just sitting there beneath you. It is actively pushing against you. Constantly, that pressure you feel in your feet. That subtle resistance in your body, that's not gravity pulling you down. That's the Earth pushing you up. Without the ground, you wouldn't feel weight at all. If you stepped off a cliff for a brief moment, you wouldn't feel a force pulling you downward. You would feel nothing weightless, free, because in that moment, nothing is resisting your motion. You are finally doing what the universe wants you to do all along. Follow the curve. This is why astronauts orbiting Earth feel weightless. They're not beyond gravity. They're deep inside it. But they're no longer resisting it. They are falling perfectly, endlessly missing the ground as they move forward, and suddenly everything changes. A falling object isn't being pulled. An orbiting planet isn't being held. Even light bending around stars isn't being affected by a force. It's all just motion, pure motion. Through a warped geometry, this idea is at the heart of general relativity. Mass doesn't reach out and grab things. Mass reshapes the stage, and everything else simply follows the script written into that shape. So the next time you drop something and watch it fall, don't think of it as being pulled down. Think of it as being released into the true path it was always meant to follow. And here's the final thought that makes this even more unsettling. If you feel weight, it's not because gravity is acting on you, it's because something is preventing you from obeying gravity completely. You're not being held down, you're being held back from falling freely through a universe that is curved beyond anything your eyes can see. So now, step back and look at everything you thought you understood. Gravity isn't a force pulling you down. It's not some invisible hand reaching through space. It's something quieter, deeper, more unsettling. It's the shape of reality itself, from Isaac Newton's elegant equations to Albert Einstein's radical vision. We didn't just refine our understanding of gravity. We completely redefined what it means for anything to move. Right now, you're not standing still. You're traveling through space-time, following a path carved by mass, shaped by the presence of Earth beneath you. And every step you take, every breath, every second that passes is guided by curves you cannot see. Planets orbit stars, not because they are trapped, but because they are free. Light bends, not because it is weak, but because the universe itself is not straight. Even time, the thing you trust the most, is not constant. It stretches, it slows, it bends, and that leads to a deeper realization. If gravity is not a force, but the geometry of space-time, then what you experience every day, weight, falling, motion, is not the result of something acting on you, but the result of you moving naturally through a universe that is curved. So ask yourself this: how many things in your life feel like forces when they're actually just the shape of the system you're in? How many pulls are really just paths you don't yet understand? Because the universe doesn't push you, it doesn't pull you. It shapes the possibilities and lets you move within them. And maybe that's the most powerful idea of all. You're not stuck, you're not being held down. You're navigating a reality that has already been shaped by mass, by energy, by the invisible architecture of existence itself. So the next time you look up at the sky and see the moon hanging there, don't think of it as something being held in place. Think of it as something falling perfectly through a curved universe, just like you. And the real question is no longer why does mass create gravity, but something far more profound: what else in this universe is not what it seems?